What is up? And welcome to another episode of the Worship Based Coffee Podcast. I am your host, Jay Soleil. Welcome in. We are working on episode 13 here on December 29th and coming into the end of the month. With the end of this year coming in, I just wanted to say a special thank you to everybody up front here. Just saying thank you to all of you that have been listening. I'm just eternally grateful for all of the support and for this community, the bass community. Really grateful for that. And this year ending here just really made me think about that and reflect on that. So, episode 13. And today I have with me a great guest, Mr. Phil. And he is not the same Dr. Phil, although he's probably just as smart, if not smarter. I would say it's really cool to have Phil in here. Phil was, and I share a little bit about the top, but I'm going to share about it again. He actually reached out to me on Instagram right out the gate when my first episode came out and just was super supportive and just encouraging to me. And I just knew that I had to eventually have him on the podcast. By the way, if you're not following him, you definitely need to follow him. He puts out some really fun and funny videos and just has that great personality. And so anyway, with that, why don't we just get to it? Hey, Phil, welcome in.
Hey, Jay, so glad to be here.
Man, I am glad to have you on the Worship Based Coffee Podcast. I can remember when the very first episode dropped and I had some people reaching out to me on Instagram. You were one of the first ones that reached out to me, and actually in a voice memo, and just encouraged me. It meant a lot. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make a little mental note to put him on my podcast list for guests. So happy to have you aboard.
So glad to be here. In fact, I think I actually sent you a video. I was in the car I was taking my son to college, and I missed the first two episodes, and I binged the two back to back. And I was like, this is amazing. I found my people. This is my community. Worship Based Coffee.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, one of the things I like to do, especially because of, the nature of what we do as worship bassists, the majority of us serve, on Sundays. And so what I like to do is to let the guest share a little bit about what they do every day, what a typical week looks like for them.
Sure. Well, I'm in the Richmond, Virginia area, which is the capital city of Virginia, and I'm a residential real estate agent, and I help people buy and sell homes, essentially. And I haven't always done that. So I've been in the business about 8 years, and kind of part of how I got into music is a bit of a career story. Before I was in real estate, I was actually a full-time worship leader for a couple different churches.
Oh, nice.
Going on about 12 years. And prior to that, I was a high school music teacher. So my musical background goes back, but I feel like bass is really my niche and what I truly love.
That's amazing. So what like a typical work day for you? What is it like getting up and looking emails? Maybe if you are searching for something for clients, what does it look like?
Every day's a little bit different, and that's one of the things I love. I mean, I have a great home office. I'm right here in my home office surrounded by, my musical instruments, which is great.
Nice.
I have an office with my brokerage that I sometimes go to if I have to make copies, that sort of thing, sales meetings. But a lot of times I'm out and about. I'm either showing clients houses or I'm in their houses helping them with getting them ready to sell, shooting videos and that kind of thing is a big part of my day. But no real 2 days are alike. And that's one of the things I really love about it. And I can be all over the place. I'm in my car quite a bit as well, listening to music and podcasts.
Nice. Well, speaking of your videos, let me just say, I love all of your videos. I was like, I need to learn how to get better at videos like Phil. I love them, especially even your realty ones are great. The last one where you did the little effect where it it's almost like a wormhole or something was pretty amazing. I love that.
Oh, thanks. So I can't take a lot of credit for my property listing videos. I actually have a videographer and
Oh,
hire them to
cool.
do the editing. I kind of help with the ideas and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but then they put it all together.
Oh, cool. Well, still, some of your even your ones that you do at the house are very cool too, though. Like the Music Mondays and I love those. So
Oh, thanks,
that's great
thanks.
too. Uh, so how do you balance, like your full-time job, spending time with family, and then also serving at your church?
Yeah, so I have a lot of flexibility in my job, being pretty much self-employed and entrepreneur. So my Monday through Friday, I can sort of write my own schedule. Now I do carry some weekends. A lot of times I have to be
Mm,
available when my clients
true.
are available. So sometimes Saturdays or can be fairly full. I pretty much block Sunday mornings. Pretty much, I tell my clients I'm not available till 2 o'clock, but sometimes I'm out and about Sunday afternoons. Now, not every weekend, and the longer I've been in the business, a little more I can protect family time and weekends.
Nice.
Now, my family situation got a little bit simpler this year. My younger son went off to college, and my daughter is in her last year of college. So, kind of, we
Okay.
hit this new season as being empty nesters.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, my wife started a new job, which has kept her busy. So, I kind of have a lot. It's just me and the dog a lot of times at the house. But we're real active in our church. We lead small groups. The two of us help lead a group that's couples about every other week. I lead another group. I'm part of another men's group that's on one morning.
Okay.
So my involvement, of course, is heavy in worship, playing bass, that kind of thing. But we're also really invested in general in our church and serve in a lot of different capacities.
That's cool. One of the episodes that we did, we talked about, what seasons of life that you're in and how everybody is kind of in different seasons. And I love that, that's another perfect example of how, the season that you're in right now with now both your kids away, it's allowing a little more freedom for you to be able to do a little bit more things at church. And so I always like that to be an encouragement to people just because, sometimes it's hard when things are like right in your face and you're you're feeling like, man, I want to be able to do this or do this at church. And like even for me, for example, I serve on Sundays, but and I do on Wednesdays, but that's really about the max of what I do as far as serving with the church. And that's just because with us having a special needs son, you know, obviously that puts a lot on our family. But at the same time, I know, again, even in my own life, that it's a season. And so just a quick little encouragement to everybody out there, that what the season that you're in is another perfect example of that. So I love it.
Yeah, I remember when the kids were small. I remember having kids at rehearsals with me and running up and down the aisles and standing up
Yeah.
there trying to keep them under control. It
Right.
is definitely a season. And now I think for me, because it was my job when my kids were young and I was the worship
Right.
leader, had to be there.
True.
But it's given me, like, in hindsight, a little bit of like empathy for what volunteers go through. Cause it's like you're trying to ask volunteers to step in and do this. You
True.
have a young
Yeah.
family,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a lot to ask. I mean, because
Yeah.
it's a different serve, doing worship.
Yes.
For us, at least, it's couple, sometimes three services all morning.
Right.
It's an evening during the week plus time
Yep.
preparation. It's a different serve than just showing up and shaking
Yes.
hands and
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We need it all. It's the body of
Yes,
Christ. But
exactly.
yeah,
Yep, that's awesome. Well, tell me about how you got into music.
well, I grew up, my dad was actually a music major in college. We had a grand piano in my house, and I have a brother who's 7 years older than me. So when I was the youngest, I remember laying down under the grand piano listening to my dad and my brother play. And I started taking piano lessons pretty young and was sort of doing the piano lesson thing. And I was involved in a very traditional church. We're talking pipe organ, choir robe,
Right.
and I sang in children's choirs, so singing was a big part of my upbringing in church. And probably around middle school, I had a friend that started playing guitar, and I, would sort of play around with his guitar and was sort of attracted to those lower four strings. And somehow in 8th grade, I caught this bass bug, and I can't quite describe exactly where it came from, but I
That's
just
amazing.
decided I want to play the bass. But it wasn't until I was in about 9th grade that I actually got a bass, and my brother was, again, 7 years older than me, so a lot of my, like, middle school, high school, I would go to bars to see my brother's band play. When my parents would bring me to these bars to
That's
see his band
amazing.
play, and I started getting to know the bass player and ended up buying my first bass from that bass player,
Nice.
and and then got into some other things like guitar. But I always kind of pride myself. There's a lot of people who play guitar first and shifted to bass. Now I played piano, but like I ended up playing guitar later, but I played the bass first. So I,
Nice.
have that little bit of
I
pride.
unfortunately I can't say that for myself. I
Yeah.
started out on and mainly my draw was like people like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, like those guys. I just, they were the rock and roll gods, of guitar shredding, and I was just like, I want to shred too.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, I think because my friend played guitar and we talked about a band, and I was like, well, he's already playing guitar. We need somebody.
okay,
And his brother played
nice.
drums. So I played, and I was like, I'll start playing bass. And it was kind of one of those things that I just gravitated towards and kind
I
of never
love
looked
that.
back.
That's awesome. So, are there who would you say are some of your like music influences?
Well, favorite band, absolute hands down, U2. So,
Nice.
always been a U2 fan.
Yeah.
And I've always loved like Sting and the Police.
Yeah.
Um, and then like when I was in high school, college, really kind of getting more immersed in like the Christian music scene. I was always a Stephen Curtis Chapman fan, and then I found out later that Lee Sklar had played on a lot of his albums,
Yeah.
and started to deep dive a little bit into like studio bass players and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Discovered Jocko when I was in college, and just Jaco Pastorius. Have always loved
Mhm.
his playing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then there was a kind of a niche Christian band that I was really into in the 90s, early 2000s, Caedmon's Call.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I know Caedmon's
they
Call.
were
Heck yeah.
like just like I would see them play. They'd come through the circuit, 2 or 3 times a year, and I was like similar age to them back in those days, and actually got to know the bass player. I met him at the first time I saw him, and
Nice. I
and it's
think
funny
they
because
weren't they kind of a southern from somewhere in the South?
Houston,
Okay, yeah.
yep. And so it's just like like this, he was like a little older than the rest of the band. I remember like they were all like early 20s and he was like 30 and had kids, and we were like, he's old. But he was so nice. Like he first time I met him, he's like, you want to come play my bass up on the stage?
You're like, yeah,
And like even to this day, I'm Facebook friends with him
that's
and sort of
amazing.
keep up. And in fact, went to see Caedmon's Call where they did a sort of a reunion show at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. I think it was last year.
Okay.
And I went to the show. I planned a trip to Nashville
Amazing.
to go see them. So anyway,
That's awesome.
it's kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, so, do you remember the first time that you ever got to like play in church?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it was a very traditional church, but there was this young adult choir that somebody else who wasn't like our minister of music directed, and he knew I played bass. And so they did this musical, and it was like in a Sunday night. And I think I was in 10th or 11th grade, and he asked me to play bass. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And he handed me the sheet music, and it was just basically piano music. And I kind of followed the bass line. I think there may have been chord symbols, but it was
Okay.
like probably 10 or 12 songs. I mean, they had a drummer, which was again very unheard of in this traditional church.
Right.
Um, and that was kind of the first time I played in church. And then contemporary worship this was all mid 90s, it was really not into like the full culture yet.
Sure.
And I was involved in a church in college that had a little bit more contemporary. And then I remember my church that I grew up in started a contemporary service on a Sunday evening. I actually drove back about 2 hours from where I was in college to play bass in the opening service because I was so like I wanted to
Nice.
be a part of it. And I
That's
came back on
awesome.
a Sunday night to just play in that service. And that was
That's
kind of the
amazing.
first like worship service I ever played in church.
Cool. Well, I know I
Mm.
didn't, this wasn't part of, some of the questions I was going to ask you, but, like, can you talk a little bit of like your college experience and like, obviously since you went into music education, is that what you studied in college?
Yeah, so I probably later high school, I was playing bass, starting to play in bands and that sort of thing. But I was also in the choir program, was in show choir and actually started taking voice lessons. So I really got into singing. And I kind of had this little phase where probably my senior year of high school into freshman year of college, I actually wanted to be an opera singer. And
Amazing.
yeah, but meanwhile, I was still like rocking out on the bass.
Heck
And
yeah.
so I
Hey,
went in.
you just got to
Yeah.
do the best of both worlds and be like dream theater, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah. And so I sort of lived in this like world of like I was a voice major studying voice and taking lessons and all that kind of thing. But then it was really after my freshman year of college I decided I wanted to pursue music ministry. So I was playing in a Christian band. So I met these guys my senior year of high school that wanted to start a band and we got together my freshman year. We started as a trio and grew to five of us. We kind of had this was again mid 90s. We had this Dave Matthews Band set up. We had a sax player, we had a violin
Oh
player,
my goodness, that's
um,
amazing.
and we ended up recording a couple of albums, and then the band ended up. We actually went to Nashville our spring break one year and recorded this album. I could tell all kinds of stories of the different people we met in Nashville and stuff. But then the band ended up breaking up before we ever produced the album,
Oh
and
no.
we still have like a reference copy of that from like the late '90s. But yeah, so I lived in this world where I was singing in choirs, performing in recitals, but then I was playing in this band, and that I was sort of on that track to pursue like full time music ministry. But then by the time I got to my senior year, I student taught, and it actually went really well. And then I kind of wanted to. Instead of going off to graduate school to further study church music, I got a teaching job and came back to my hometown of Richmond and was invested in that for about 7 years. And that, my college experience prepped me for that. And so, you know, I was fortunate to be in this music job that it was pretty taxing. It had a lot of time after hours. It did like I was a high school show choir director, and among other choirs, we had to go to competitions and
Wow.
perform concerts. So it was a very busy job to where I really didn't have a lot of time to play. I always wanted to be in another band. I started to get involved in when my wife and I started dating and eventually were married a couple years later. We kind of got involved in some different churches, definitely more contemporary, where I
Okay.
started playing bass. But then all of a sudden I was leading worship and playing acoustic guitar. And then we were in some other churches where I would sometimes play bass and lead worship. And I sort of did
The whole Sting thing
yeah,
there.
exactly, exactly. And
That's
then
awesome.
yeah, and then ultimately made the transition into full-time ministry and was in a couple of different churches where I had, one church we had an early service that was contemporary in a gym. I could show up with like jeans and a t-shirt and would typically play like acoustic guitar, sometimes electric guitar, seldom times bass as well. And then we'd have a break and I had a suit in my office and I'd go change into a suit. And then we had the sanctuary where we had choir and choir robes, the organ, the piano, and I would, have open your hymn to number 91
Right.
and then have the choir sing. So I have all that training. The choir
Yeah.
training. So I could live comfortably in those worlds of like I always kind of think of it as the worship wars where it's like I always was very comfortable showing up in jeans, like let's do the contemporary worship
Right.
rock and roll thing, and then hey, let's put on a suit and let's do the traditional thing.
Sure.
I was always uncomfortable in the middle. Like I was in a church one time where they had a
Yes.
blended service, and because I feel
Right.
like you're always trying to satisfy one way or the other,
Yes.
and yeah, it can be pretty complicated, and I think churches can be divided over the
I
worship,
know.
if you will.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I love that though, hearing about how you went back to how you were going to school and how you studied all of that. That is really cool. Uh, so now you're fast forward, you're doing the realty thing, and now you're serving at your local church. So uh, I'm assuming that y'all use Planning Center.
Yes.
So you get that planning center notification. Hopefully it's at least a week in advance. And but I'm just curious, like how once you get that, what's your like kind of process as far as preparing for a Sunday?
Yeah, so typically we know a couple 3 weeks in advance. We're in a season now where there's pretty much 2 bass players, so we almost rotate every other week.
Okay.
There was a while where we were doing like we do 2 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. Because it was
Okay.
I've been doing this for a while, and there's a newer bass player that wanted more of that build up time. So we know about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. We're on a typical Sunday, it's 3 songs. Sometimes if we're having baptisms, it might be 4 songs. So we kind of keep cycling similar songs, so there's never more than 1, possibly 2 unfamiliar songs. Although sometimes, if I wasn't they did a new song last week when I wasn't playing, and then now all of a sudden it's a new song for me, but most of the rest
Right.
of the band and we have some rotation. It's all of a sudden like you feel thrown to the wolves with a new song where
Yeah.
everybody did it last week, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just learning this."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I will look at the list and kind of what do I know, what do not know, and I'll queue it up in the car and I play it directly from the Planning Center app, and I'll listen to like the bass track. I'll try to know the key, and so a lot of my practice and rehearsal is kind of mental in the car. If I know the
Yeah.
key, I'm visualizing and sometimes even sort of playing where it lands on the fretboard, and I can kind of rehearse in my car,
Yeah.
like and it's funny because I think the last podcast you talked about like rattling the wind.
Speakers in the
Yeah,
car.
I just got a subwoofer in my car a couple months
Nice.
ago because I was never satisfied with the bass, and
Yeah.
especially being in the car. So I have this like I feel like I'm a teenager all over again with this
I
big
love it.
boomy bass, but it really does help in getting
It
ready to play
does.
bass,
Oh,
having
for
a low
sure.
end, and so really practice starts in my car. 1 or 2 nights before. I'll pull one of my basses out. I have a little small amp that I hook up my headphones and my phone goes into that, and I just practice.
Nice.
Sometimes I'll look at the chart. It kind of depends if I like to. And that was a learning curve for me in the church where I am at now. I've been 7 years. Everything's memory. I used to be a music stand guy and like had the
Mhm.
chart, and I never was an iPad guy. I always had the paper charts, and that was
Right.
back when I was really more of a worship leader. Uh, but yeah, try to memorize the numbers. And then we have an MD typically at the keyboard who will call out chords if we need the help,
Yeah.
which that helps once we're in rehearsal if I'm not as comfortable as if it's a newer song. But
Right.
sometimes we have those like it's bridge 1, bridge 2, bridge
Right.
2A, and like those chords,
Yes.
you're going 1 4 1
I
4 5
know.
6 4, and then all of a sudden it's going to the 2, or
I
it's
know.
it
Yes.
it kinda can
Yeah.
throw that's where the older I get, the harder time I have to kinda memorize,
Oh,
with that
sure.
sort of stuff.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and in fact, this past, Sunday, I served, and it was a blessing from the Lord because on Thursday, I came home from work and just all sinus,
Oh.
it was terrible, coughing,
Mm.
that's why I have this gigantic thing of water here just in case, but, like, it was just terrible, and I was feeling awful, and I was like, I'm gonna have to rehearse and get ready. And then I went and I was looking in at the songs. I was like, wait a minute, they changed one of the songs on here. And I looked and it was like all 4 of them were songs that we've done several times.
Yeah.
So I was like, thank you. It was because I knew it was going to be less time and more time for me to just recuperate and, you know, physically more than mentally. So
Yeah,
it was just kind of funny how that worked out. Uh,
definitely.
So what's something that you do that you feel like to set yourself up for success on a Sunday morning?
Well, number one is, spiritually be prepared, make sure I'm prayed up and that God's, really working in my life that week. I've experienced it on both occasions where it's like if I feel dried up, and maybe it's a week where work is really busy and I'm not getting
Mm,
word and I'm not praying, where I can show up some with a little bit of an edge to me, and then it's
sure.
like, oh, we're not starting on time. Oh, so and so showed up 20 minutes late, and I can easily get into that mindset of like
Yeah.
being like grumbling, and so I just try to like, Lord, you have me here, help me to be a servant,
Yeah.
and I just try to be grateful because for so many years, and I still a little bit, I have sort of PTSD from being the guy in charge, and I'm just grateful that I can show up and just be the bass player, and
Right.
I'm not, and I know that behind every leader they're facing so many challenges, and so I just
Sure.
try to empathize with that. So yeah, first of all, yeah, being spiritually set. Obviously, being musically prepared tremendously helps. I don't want to rely on the MD to give me
Right.
chords. I remember when I was early, and I would sometimes throw an iPad down like on the floor. If we're
Sure.
doing like a worship night where we've got like 10 songs, I'll probably have a
Yeah.
cheat sheet with chords like on a piece of paper.
Yes.
But it can be tough, sometimes being musically, but also I had a worship leader mentor say this to me years ago, and it really helped me as a worship leader, but just being prepared the night before. It can be hard. I try to protect Saturday nights. Sometimes you're out at a wedding, or I had my high school
True.
reunion a few weeks ago, and you can be out late on a Saturday. Although actually, I think I wasn't playing bass the next morning after my high school reunion. But I mean, I do little things like I get the coffee maker set up. I make my breakfast. If I don't eat breakfast before I'm in, because we have about a 6:30 a.m.
Mhm.
call. If I
Yes.
show up because I'm rushing to get ready, I'm like, I can be grumpy.
Yes.
So I get my
Yes.
oatmeal like all set up in the fridge,
Mhm.
all mixed with the protein powder. I get my Keurig is all ready to just pull down and hit
Yep.
go. My vitamins are sitting out. I pick out my outfit, make sure the shirt is unwrinkled, get the shoes set out, just like all those little
Yeah.
things, because those are tiny decisions. If you don't have that set up in advance, all of a sudden your morning can become a fluster,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
trying to like, oh, what am I going to wear? Oh man, the black shirt's dirty. Oh, I got to wear this. And oh,
Right.
now I got to make, oh, I'll just skip breakfast. And then you show up and you're frazzled and you're hungry,
Mhm.
and the Lord, it's hard for the Lord to meet you there.
I
So
know.
that's a
Yep.
huge that I protecting Saturday nights, being ready the night before so I can just get up, get the amount of sleep I need to get, and be ready to serve, right, and be in there when the
Yeah.
team is ready.
Well, and I can relate to that totally because, I'll be getting up at 5:30, to get ready, and I'm trying to conserve as much sleep as I can possibly get.
Mhm,
So that's
mhm.
why 5:30 and I have to be there at 6:20. Thankfully, I only live like 10 minutes away from the church, but uh and nobody else is up in my house at that time. So the house is completely black,
Yep,
and so if I'm like you, I have my clothes laid out, everything ready to go. Cause if I'm having to search, then I'm gonna end up waking up my wife and
yep,
she's gonna be grumpy,
mhm,
understandably so, because I would be grumpy if she did the same
yep, yep,
thing to me. So yeah, and I love that. And usually I'll have like some hard boiled eggs already ready in the fridge to do and my coffee cup ready to go. So yeah, I'm with you. Those are like important things to do just so you like just as a human being feel better for playing,
yeah,
It's
for
just
sure.
nobody wants to be hangry, you know.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I've been there so many
Yeah,
times. Yeah.
exactly. So, one thing I was going to ask you is, so because you have all that experience, like as far as in college and learning like actual music notes, uh, when you started playing like in these circumstances, and they were going to the number system, was that like a new thing for you, or were already familiar?
I was familiar. Part of music theory, when you take,
Yes.
academic music theory, you have like the numbers, you like the 1, 4, 5, and you get into like a lot more complicated things like
Yes.
Neapolitan six chords and
Right.
plagal cadences. So I had that background, but
Okay.
but I was always very much a like, what's the chord? Is it a D? Is it a G?
Right.
And more of my worship, I've probably, even in all the years I've been involved in worship, I probably played guitar more than I've played bass, maybe. And so I tend to think more in chord shapes. And, of course, when I was playing
Sure.
acoustic guitar, it was a lot of moving the capo and,
Mhm.
um, but then I would be on capo, but then I'd have a keyboard player, I'd be playing in D with capo 3, and then I'd have to say, oh, but we're in E flat. So I always had lots of
Yeah.
different keys in my head as a worship leader where I had to tell one person the chord here versus what I was playing on the
Right.
guitar. So the numbers kind of came pretty quick to me when I came to our church about 7 years ago, but I wasn't as accustomed. And even though I've got like the musical training and the degree and I still am very much a by ear bass player. Like when
Sure.
I started learning in high school, it was, and this is again the 90s. I mean, I'm sitting down in front of the CD player, sometimes the
Right.
tape player. You're
Yeah.
rewinding, you're fast forwarding,
Yeah.
you're just trying to lock in and learn stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I've said this before. I think that's one of the best ways if you're a person that is wanting to cut the umbilical cord on charts. The best way that you can do it is when you first sit down with that song is not even look at a chart and just try and do it with your ears, because there's something about when you're hearing and your fingers are actually touching that, like, I think it does something neurologically where it helps you to memorize it better.
Yeah.
At least that's how it's always been for me. Like, if I do that versus just straight reading a chart, I feel like I have to run through the song multiple times before my brain and hands kind of, you know, grasp onto it. So,
Yeah, and I can get, because again, it's not uncommon for us to change keys. Rarely, like Sunday morning,
right.
all of a sudden, but a lot of times it'll be like rehearsal Thursday night. Oh, we're going to do this song in, D instead of E, and I can usually make those shifts a little better if I'm thinking more in
Yeah.
terms of numbers versus notes.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah. I mean, I've joked about it before is I've been on and in fact, I think it was on the last episode, been on the way to church driving, and all of a sudden I get a text and it's them, hey, we're changing it from D to C. And I'm like, okay, well,
yeah, yeah, and I can struggle. I start to struggle sometimes with muscle memory. If it's a song we've done
right.
in one key like 4 or 5 times, like
Yes.
especially if you're sliding up the neck because you kind of just have that muscle memory, that's where I
Yes.
can really struggle in
I
a change
know.
key situation.
That's where I feel like in certain times, especially at maybe certain parts of the songs, it's not that I'm not trying to worship, but I maybe take that moment to concentrate a little bit more on, okay, I know this part I'm supposed to become, I need to make sure that I'm sliding to the right note.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, kind
anyway,
of backing
that's
up, like talking about preparing and knowing the song, and I sort of started saying, oh, my inclination is to let's start learning the bass part, but I try to just listen to the song. Maybe I listen
yeah,
to a lot of like playlists, and like we are typically pulling the newest, like whatever's the newest, like
nice.
elevation or SEC worship, is it
Right.
Southeast? So yeah, we're doing the new stuff. SEU, I think we're
Yes.
doing it when it's coming out, and so I typically am kind of hearing it, but like I want to know the song. And
Yeah.
one of my struggles when I was leading worship and the times I would play bass and lead worship is I always kind of sacrificed bass for the vocal, because I think
Sure.
the vocal is the most important. But now it's comforting to be just the bass player and I can really focus on the bass. But I don't want to lose track of what the song is and what are the lyrics and what's the heart behind the song, and
Yeah.
because and I think there's nothing more powerful. And I struggle to do this, but like I want to sing when I'm playing, but I'll always default to like what is I'm going to drive the song from the bass. And
Right.
if I can't do that and sing, if it's going to mess me up, I'm going to just play. But I think, and you see it in bands, you can see it in worship teams. There's nothing more powerful than a worship team and a band that's singing the song
Yes.
along with the singers, because that means
Yes.
you're really authentically engaging in the worship and you're really
Yeah.
able to lead worship. You
Yes.
can from your instrument, but it's always more effective when it's your instrument and you're singing.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, 100%. Uh, and I feel like when the whole band is engaged like that,
Yeah.
it's the energy level, I feel like I know you can probably attest to this. Some mornings you can just feel the connection and energy level is just like up a notch
Yeah.
than it normally is. And you're like, wow, I don't know what's going on here, but this is like a good morning, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not that other mornings are not good, but it's just there's just certain mornings where it just everything seems to be clicking and everybody is really engaged in the song, and it does. And I, as somebody who's out, sits out, you know, in the worship too, I can
Mhm.
feel that from the stage myself, you know. So
Yeah.
I have
100%.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's you, and that's what I've loved in the last year and a half. I was even in the church. I mean, I was in a place where I was serving most weeks. I was there, and if I wasn't serving, it's because I was on vacation or something. And so
Right.
I've had the freedom to be able to show up, and just worship and just be in the congregation. And that's just, it's still like every time I get to do that, I don't take it for granted. And it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's so important for worship teams to take breaks. You shouldn't have the same player for every instrument, every Sunday. It's
Yeah.
healthy to take a break and to be, and not just take a break because you're, at the beach for the week, but take a break so you can come to church, especially if you're married or you have kids. Like, come,
Yes.
like last weekend, because my kids were home from college for Thanksgiving, and we all drove together in one car. Like, that's just like, oh, it heals my heart to do
Yes.
that. I just love it.
I love that. That's amazing. Uh, how do you, so cause I know everybody deals with this, but how do you handle your mistakes, or moments when things do not go as planned?
I mean, you just kind of have to roll with it. And
Yeah.
I you know, and usually like we have a pretty good MD, like one or both of our sometimes we have two keyboards, sometimes we have one, but usually both of them will have a mic, but they kind of know, and I just kind of stand and I look, I make eye contact across the stage, and they just one,
Yeah.
come on, let's get back on the one, or if I'm missing the
Right.
chord, and you
Yeah.
just lock in the best that you can and just keep going, and you can't, and I've said this for years, and I've, especially when I was a choir director, and you can't show with your face that you've made a mistake. You just, that'll draw more attention and
Sure.
distract more than if you just keep going. And I think I've had that
Yeah.
ingrained in me as a performer in general for so many years, that you just got to keep rolling. And,
Yep.
I've never had anything crazy. Sometimes, like everyone's got the like accidentally hit the major fuzz when it was a quiet moment, or forgot to kick off. And that's like, I know we're not in gear talk yet, but like I mean, I have a volume pedal so I can quickly pull off
Oh, nice.
if I accidentally have the micro synth blaring and it comes to that soft chorus, I can pull off if I need to,
Oh, nice.
because those are the
Yeah.
mistakes that are going to be more noticed, and if you can escape from them very quickly, that's good.
Yes. Well, at least you didn't have the story where you accidentally hit somebody in the back of the head with the bass.
Oh my goodness, wow. that's that's
Yeah, that
crazy.
was fantastic. I couldn't believe that.
uh
Uh, what do you I mean, do you actually have a memorable or and actually it doesn't have to be like a mistake moment, but maybe it's just a memorable moment of where uh the band just kind of clicked and it was just an amazing experience serving anything like that that comes to mind.
I, nothing major, but like kind of going back to, you know my older days of being a worship leader, and when I would lead from bass, I mean, I would enjoy that, but the challenge, and back in those days, like we didn't have click track, we didn't have tracks, like we
Oh.
had about 50% in-ear usage. So we had wedges, we had microphones, we had a live piano, like a acoustic piano. It was a very like hodgepodge, if you will. But when I would play bass, I liked it because I could sort of drive the song and I'd done that. But then if okay, we need to go to an extra chorus, or if I'm not dialed in with my piano player or acoustic guitar player, like you can't really lead a
I
song
know.
from the bass,
I know.
And that was always there. I had a few snafus with that in my worship leading where it's like I wanted to extend the song and because if the piano player wasn't locked in or the acoustic guitar player it just dropped
That's
out.
true. I
Yeah.
wouldn't think about it that way. I have always just thought about it, just from my own experience of playing in a Beatles tribute band, uh, and singing those all those
Yeah.
harmonies that the bass lines are always in a syncopated or rhythm pattern, whereas like if you have a guitar, you're playing the melody,
Hmm.
whereas the bass is
Yeah.
not playing the melody at all,
Yeah.
and so you're singing a different pattern than what you're playing.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really having this separate the two halves of your brain. It's crazy.
I did think of this one time where I was in my heart as a worship leader, wanted to give the team a break. So I was like, well, I'm just going to do a solo acoustic Sunday. So I had my acoustic guitar and I had bought this looper pedal and I wasn't into pedals or anything back
Nice.
then. And I practiced. I had it all. I'd seen a couple worship leaders do this where I like looped, got the song
Yeah.
going and I had the loops going and I practiced in the venue in our sanctuary with the sound system and everything. And had I was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun, like gonna get people clapping and I'm gonna do the beat, the little drum thing on the
Yeah.
acoustic. And man, you got people in there and we started singing and it just fell flat because it just
Oh,
got way off.
no.
So I just had to kill the loop, cancel in my head in the moment all the plans that I had had to,
Oh, no.
and that's where God was probably like trying to humble me and say, Phil, you're trying to make this too cool. You're trying to make this about you, but we just need to lift our voices and sing. And anyway, that was one of those situations where I set you in the moment. You're just like, all right, got to kill the loop. And
Yeah.
it's like those times when it like sometimes you have to kill the click track,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it happens, you just got to keep rolling.
Yeah, we had to do that this past Sunday. It was in, the third service, first song. We were off
Mhm.
of the track, and, our drummer, while he's still playing drums, reaches over to the little, uh his little mixer and pushes the little intercom button. It's like, we're off, click, we're off. And he's like, he's playing, right, but
Yeah.
the whole thing was just off, and so they just killed the tracks,
Yeah.
and so then we were
Mm.
fine. So it was just that kind of stuff happens. uh so what do you think is probably one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from getting to serve, on a worship team regularly?
I think it's, just we're all a sum of parts, and it's the body of Christ. And I think a worship team is really exemplifies the body of the Christ of in such a great way. I mean, the head can't function without the hands, the hands can't function without the feet. And just that idea
Yeah.
of, you know, we all play a part. And I think because of so many years of being like sort of the one in charge, getting to step back and being kind of, maybe, I don't know, if you're the worship leader, maybe you're the head. I don't know how that
Right.
analogy plays out, but if you're the bass player, you're like the foot, but
Right.
obviously you still have a very important role to play. Um, but then, the fact that we are a team and you got to be humble and you have to bring your heart to it. You can't be there to show up and make it all about you and play a bunch of notes. And you gotta serve the church, you gotta serve the song, you have to serve the Lord, and you
Yes.
gotta worship
Yeah.
the Lord. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. On the last episode, even Levon, is this incredibly skilled bass player,
Yeah.
and just like hearing him talk about his Sunday morning experience was just like blew my mind, you know. how they're just basically on the fly all the time.
Yeah.
And that just, it just made me think about how, yes, some of that gospel style can be very flashy, but even with it being flashy, one of the things that he said was that exact thing. He said, I'm always trying to serve the song. What is my most important job is serving the song, not how can I play this part really cool, So
Yeah.
I love that even in that, which is, obviously different from the CCM world, his mindset is still the same as serving the song. And so
Yeah.
just something that we can definitely all try to keep in mind, for sure. So I love
Definitely.
that.
Yeah. And and in my current church, because we do have, I'd say we are pretty much CCM, but we kind of bridge into some of the Maverick City. But
Yeah,
we have some players that have kind of more the gospel background. One keyboard player in particular, and I've learned so much from him. Like we'll do little things when he's MDing. He'll do some like chord substitutions and like
nice.
flat
Flat
six and flat
sevens and
seven, and
yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
stuff I never did. And it was
Yeah.
like play the chart, play the chart, play the part.
Yeah.
But when we all can sync in those ways, I mean, I've just kind of stretched as a musician, I think,
Yeah.
being able to play with just really like, just different musicians, most of them a whole lot younger than me. And I think you're never too old to learn new things. And I think also you're never too old to sort of expire. Cause even when I was leading worship, I started to go through and turning 40. It was like, gosh, is there a place for contemporary worship leaders once you get to
Right.
40? But I think God's got a place for everybody. And
Oh yeah.
we could probably
Yeah, for
do a
sure.
whole episode about age and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Cause even that with myself, I mean, I've had more opportunities now being older than I had when I was younger.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of interesting how it's really, you know, about your heart, your willingness to serve, and what you put into it, and God knows your heart. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things is he wants your heart's desires.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and when you're spending time in the word with him and then typically your heart's desires are going to be in line with him anyway. So,
Yeah.
uh
Definitely.
but now we get on to one of the favorite areas, the topics. Gear talk.
Woohoo! Gear talk.
Yes, everybody loves that part.
Oh yeah, for
So,
sure.
so let's go ahead and talk about it. Talk about your current bases.
Well, I have a decent collection, not like anything crazy. I don't have more than 10 bases, but and I have most of them kind of out and here. Kind of right behind me
Nice.
is my favorite
It's
go-to
your
bass.
go-to. Yeah.
It's newer. It's my birth year P bass. I don't know if I'll say what year it is. But I try to play that bass whenever I can, but then often I need to play five string. And so my go-to five string is a newer Sadowski Metro Express PJ. So it's got the
Okay.
precision pickup and the neck position and the jazz pickup and the bridge position.
Okay.
So it kind of a little bit of the best of both worlds, and it's got a whole active preamp. And I only run it in passive. When I first got it, I thought, oh, this will be fun, active electronics, but they
Yeah.
just never quite gelled. So I just always pull the
Yeah.
knob and go passive. Um, but I love I had a P bass in a 70s P bass in high school, and it was kind of
Nice.
it was my second bass, but most of my early playing was on that bass, and then I sold it to get a jazz bass, and then later, like I only about a year and a half ago, I decided I wanted the birth year,
Yeah.
1977. I don't care.
Yeah.
So 77, it hit reverb, like drop price, and I told my wife, I was like, I gotta get it. So and it's the same,
Nice.
like I had the rosewood, not yeah, rosewood fretboard, sunburst body, black pick guard. It's just like the one I had in, I think it was a
Nice.
74 that I had in high school. So it's like
Okay.
it's almost like I reclaimed the one that got away. And
Nice.
so
Except now you have your birth year. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I love but like so many times I feel like our songs call for the 5 string. Like even if it's an
Sure.
I'll every now and again tune the whole bass down a half step if we're doing a bunch of stuff in E flat.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do the D tune down to D and do drop D tuning. But but then my muscle memory stuff starts getting off when I try to do drop
Mm,
D tuning.
sure.
So I did the 5 string because for a long time for my band in college, like I ended up locking in on 5 strings. So there was about a 10-year period of
Okay.
my bass playing where I played a 5 string. So it's very comfortable for me. I can kind of
What
go in
was
and out
that
of them.
guitar?
That was a Carvin
Okay.
LB 75. It's like hanging on my wall over there.
Nice.
Um, so still have that bass, and it was kind of my primary bass. Then I went to a 4 string passive jazz style bass for a long time. So I'm very comfortable on a jazz bass. But I like the P bass to me is like home. Um, I would
Yeah.
love to have the only thing about this Sadowski, it's like a PJ, but it's a jazz style. So it has the
Oh,
kind of like
sure.
the jazz plate and the shape of the body.
Yeah.
Like probably, if I had like a dream bass, it would be a passive PJ 5 string that's a P bass style. Like there's something
Yeah.
about the back, the rounded body versus like the
Those
dropped.
are what's funny is I don't Fender doesn't make them
No, no, and
at
so
all.
you had Brandon Robold on here, and I've been following on him Instagram. I had the 5 string Fender P bass. I bought it like 4 years ago. I had it for about a year and a half, just never really
Yeah.
liked it. And I thought about putting a jazz pickup on it, and
Yep.
he did. He has the same one. I
Yes.
see his Instagram, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's almost like my recent one that got away because like I wish I had just put the jazz pickup on that P bass,
Yeah.
but it just for some reason it was like one of those like I only had it for about a year and a half, sold it, and then I got the Sadowski, and it, I like it. I don't love it. I think there's probably another bass in the future for me that's a 5 string probably.
Sure.
I could probably go for another 5 string jazz bass. I love the vintage style, so it's like something that's a Fender shaped object, as they say.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
FSO.
Yes, yes. I mean, you talk about Puleo a lot, and I follow Puleo on
Yeah.
Instagram, and I'm always like putting together a Puleo in my head, like, ooh,
Yeah.
what specs could I get?
What could I do? That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I yeah, love the P bass, but also just like a jazz bass too. So
That's awesome. So those are the ones that are most in your rotation, like say on a Sunday
yeah,
morning.
yeah, and I would never. I think one time I brought 2 basses for a Sunday because it was we were on Same God. Elevation Worship was kind of
Okay.
retired from our playlist now, but it has that bass intro, and
Yeah.
I
And
would
it,
I would play it with an open string, and it was in like
yeah.
D flat, so I tuned the whole
Right.
bass down so I could get that
Half a
drone
step.
D.
Yep.
So there was one Sunday where I had a second bass, and
Yeah.
I was able to like change basses on the outro before the click intro and put it
Yes.
back on and be ready for the intro. But otherwise, yeah, one bass. It's unless you're
Yeah.
doing like a worship long set where you've got long keyboard intros, like just it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense for 3 or 4 songs. Just
Yeah.
one bass does it.
Yeah, we this year at camp I brought two and I just had the one. I used my Paleo the whole time, but I had a P bass there tuned half a step
Mm-hmm.
down in case I had because we had a couple songs that were in B flat and E flat. And so I was like, it's just so much easier for
Yeah.
my brain. And plus the biggest thing is for me is the four
Mm-hmm.
or the one.
Yes.
So in E flat, the one, there is no good E flat
Yeah.
sound,
Right.
unless you're on a 5 string like
Yep.
what you have. So I want that. I want to be able to hit that open E, but obviously it's not E, it's E flat.
I
So,
know. Yeah, I hear you.
yeah, there were a couple songs that we were doing in some odd keys like that. And I was like, I'm just going to bring a second bass, have it sitting there. And so thankfully what we did was I would let the worship leader know, and then he's like, okay, what I'll do is I'll kind of come down and I'll just have a moment where we're kind of flowing for a minute, and that'll give you enough time to swap real quick, and then we'll go right into the next song.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of if when that does work out, it works out good when they can kind of help you plan too. So you're not going, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
trying to
for sure.
quickly,
Yeah, because wouldn't we
so,
love to have a guitar tech that would just, hand us,
right.
when
Exactly.
you get
That would be
the
amazing.
full blackout and the handoff and yeah.
I got to have that one time.
Okay.
And so when we this is in 22, I think it is, when we recorded the that full album with That's My King and all
Yeah.
that on it, that worship night. uh it's the first time that I'd ever done anything like that, and I was like, I'm going all out. I was like, I'm gonna try to tie the uh guitarist with as many guitars as they got. So I had four basses
Awesome.
for that. But now it was 11 songs,
Yeah.
but so I had a 5-string jazz
Yep.
bass. I had a P bass, and both of those had rounds on it.
Yep.
A P bass that was just like my main, that was the one that I played the most.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I had a P bass that had flat wounds on it, which I just played for two songs. And then I had it was a PJ, but it was tuned down half a step.
Hmm.
And that was the big thing. We had two songs that were in E flat, one that was in B flat. And then we had two songs that were very like quiet, soft. So I was like, yeah, I'll just use a, P bass with flats. I'm just playing kind of big open notes. It makes it sound clean. And then we had a couple of songs where I used the 5-string on. But
Yeah.
originally I was going to have a little rack of the guitars right there on the stage. But the problem was I was in the very center of the stage with the drummer, and they were like, we don't really like that there. So I was like, well, how am I going to get my guitars? And they said, well, can you like write out the songs and which guitar you're going to have? And then we'll just have one of the stage guys just run it over to you real quick. And I
Yeah.
was like, cool, we can do that.
Okay. There you
I was
go.
like, I can be a rock star for one night.
That's awesome.
So it was fun, and he did a great job too. So
Yeah, that's one of the
anyway,
dynamics we have is like we walk on the stage with our instruments and then walk off,
yes,
and then we have a
yes,
rack in the back. And
yep,
I started using a wireless. So I had a wireless many years ago in my band in college, and that was like I loved it once I went wireless, and then that thing was like old with the big antennas. And so
yeah,
about 2 years ago, I invested in a Shure DLX wireless.
mm,
And we changed venues at my church where we kind of have a shopping center. We had like what was once a CVS.
okay,
We rented it, then we bought the whole property, and then they renovated what was an Ollie's, the big discount store.
oh
It was like
yeah,
a grocery store size space, and we opened about a year and a half ago. And I mean,
okay,
it's an awesome venue. It's like for me as a worship leader, everything I ever like wanted as far as like lights and sound
right,
and screens, it's like we have it.
yeah,
We're
that's
so blessed.
amazing.
But we all went to, because we used to have the wired in ear with the little mixer, but we went to
Yes.
wireless, and we have like
Oh, that's
we have the
awesome.
phone app that we mix on, which could be a little clunky. Um,
Sure.
but I was like, I need to have wireless. So and I played the first Sunday, I think, with the wireless, but then by the second Sunday they said, "Phil, you can't use the wireless because we have cameras on wireless, we have microphones on wireless, we have in-ears on wireless." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And then I plugged in my cable and did this, and then I think I just said, I'm just gonna put the wireless on, and if they say anything, I'll stop using it. So I haven't turned back.
So hopefully none of them
Yeah.
are gonna listen to this episode, right?
Exactly. But like when I watch, like I always, when the prayer happens at the end of the service, and the instrumentalists are coming up, and they all bend down to pick up their
Yeah.
cable and plug, and it always
And
makes
you're
that
just
click.
like,
I'm just like it's just easy. I just walk in.
right?
And it's worked really well for me. I've not had any issues. I know some people say you don't get quite as strong a signal, especially for bass with
Sure.
wireless, but I mean, in the DLX, the Shure, it's not that expensive, a few $100, and I mean, we are in a heavy, heavy wireless environment, and it works great. So
That's
I'm not
awesome. I
sponsored to
love
say
that.
that, but definitely
Right.
would recommend the
Yeah.
Shure DLX if you're looking for a good wireless.
That's awesome. Well, since you're talking about a part of your pedal board, how about going ahead and sharing with what your signal chain is, what you're
Yeah,
using right
sure.
now?
Another thing I'm like really nerdy about is like cables.
Yeah.
I have this on my desk here, the right angle cable. So I would always have that, no, it's always like annoying to me to have a straight cable. And especially if you have like a
Yes.
P bass and a jazz bass,
I
your input's
know.
on the front and you have that thing like sticking way out.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the wireless, it came with a straight, but then I had this custom made so it
Oh,
plugs into my
nice.
pack. And then I even have a little pouch that the little receiver goes in on my strap, just so it's like it's not gonna fall
Yeah.
off. It's just clean there. I love that um
That's awesome.
clean, clean cables, like organized, like pedal board, all that stuff. Like I've always been a
Yeah.
fan of like organized stages. Um and wireless always helps make
Oh,
it
yeah.
that much more organized. So am I talking about pedal board now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, looking down at the pedal board, so the Shure DLX wireless, which also has a tuner, so I can use that as my tuner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which, just basically works like and I have a Polytune TC Electronic that I used to use, I still have it, but
Okay.
it's a great tuner, and the good thing about it too is it also has an input on the top. If and I always have a cable just in case. So if
Okay.
the wireless pooped out on me, I could grab a cable and plug into the
And just
top of
plug
the
in.
direct of
Oh,
the so
nice.
it's kind of fail safe, if you will. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never had to do that, but in
I
fact, I think
like that.
yeah, so I've always got a cable ready to go if I need it. So I go from there, I think to and I have the Ernie Ball like uh VP or the volume pedal, the junior.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of the bigger uh, and I know it's more of a guitar player thing, but I sort of like to just have it, like I mentioned earlier, like the fail safe, turn off the signal, and it's more gradual.
Yes.
And plus, sometimes I like it in a lighter moment to just swell a little bit,
Yeah.
especially in like the moments at the end of the service when the pastor's praying or like we're coming back
Yes.
in after the sermon. I could just sort of like
Mm-hmm.
slightly swell in.
Yep.
So that's the volume pedal, and then I have an Empress compressor. Um,
Okay.
I didn't get into pedal boards till about 3 years ago, and I sort of wholesale. It was actually through the worship bassist Facebook group. Like I think somebody was like, "Hey, selling 4 or 5 pedals," and I messaged the guy, and I just ended up buying them all. And
Nice.
the Empress compressor was one, and
Okay.
then and I'm not sure of the signal chain because I reworked it at some point, and so how they are on
Okay.
my board doesn't mean the order that they're in. But I think the order they're in works, but I don't remember the signal chain, honestly. So the compressor, then I have the bass micro synth electro harmonics,
Yes.
which that was part of that batch deal with that guy. It's like
Okay.
I've never loved it, and I don't think I've quite gotten the right settings. And you actually sent me your settings from a video you did. I'm gonna try that next time.
Nice.
So I like it, but I don't love it. You know,
Sure.
um, and then I have the MXR vintage bass octave, which I
Nice.
really love that. It's got a great
Me too.
like you can do like you can turn it off to where there's no fundamental. It's just the sub octave and you get that real synth bass tone. And I just
Yes.
love that for like a first chorus if it's a softer song. And then you can also like have the fundamental plus the sub octave and you can just like
Yeah.
rock out like,
Yeah.
middle choruses, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah. I have it on my board too. I love it. And I feel like it really tracks good
yes.
too. Like there's even been times where I've hit like A flat and it still
Mhm.
is not like really,
Right.
like
It doesn't get weird. Yeah.
yeah, it does
It's
pretty good.
it's
It
it's a
probably wouldn't if you hit like an open E, but
sure.
still, like for those, normally going lower than an
Right.
A is not going to sound good.
Like
But
it will work really well if like there's a song I'd normally play a 5 string on, I can play my 4 string. Like I think of Praise by Elevation.
yeah,
I think we play it in A, so like the low note on it goes down to a D, and I typically like
right.
to have that low D on the 5 string.
Yes.
I've played it as a drop D before, but
Right.
lately I've been playing it with my octave pedal, and I just play
I
everything an
love
octave
that.
up. And so when I hit
Yeah.
that D, I'm getting that low D, plus I'm getting strong fundamental. And like we're actually playing
Yes.
praise this Sunday, and it's interesting because it's the week of Thanksgiving and we're not going to have rehearsal, but I know I'm going to be
Nice.
able to walk in hopefully with my P bass and just rock it out with the octave
Nice.
pedal on
I
praise.
love that.
And
Yeah, one of the things I love about it too is so the microsynth is great.
yeah.
And I had that kind of same uh history with it that you did
Hmm.
where I hit it. I've had this is probably the third one that I've bought.
Yeah.
So that should tell you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bought it, not liked it, sold it.
Yep.
Bought another one, didn't like it, sold it, and this is a third one. And I feel like I finally am liking it. The settings, and I think a lot of what it is what you have it with.
Yeah.
I think is how it helps it
For
to sound
sure.
best. But it's very square waved
Hmm.
sounding, and so one of the things I love about with the MXR is I can turn that on and then turn some overdrive on,
Yep.
and you can basically play an entire song like that
Yeah.
with that, and it doesn't sound, like overly harsh like the the microsynth would if you were trying to do that.
Yeah.
So
And speaking of overdrive, my next pedal is the Yo-Yo double thruster. It's a Chinese made, modeled
nice.
after the oh shoot, now the dark glass. It's modeled
Oh,
after one
okay.
of the dark glass. I think
Was it the
yeah, the
BK3 or
BK3. Because
okay.
I was, so like my last part of my pedal board is the Aguilar tone hammer, and for a long time I was trying to use the AGS circuit as my overdrive,
Okay,
but I was
yeah.
getting too much of a signal gain from clean
Mm-hmm.
to the overdrive, depending on where I put
Yes.
the gain on the drive. So that's when I was like, I got to get an overdrive, and I was looking at the dark glass, watching all the videos, and then I stumbled on this Joyo thing, and I watched probably 10 YouTube videos where they compared the Joyo double thruster with the dark glass 3BL or whatever you said,
Okay.
and it's like $60 on Amazon. So I just grabbed it,
Amazing.
and like it's been fine. I mean, I could, it's a little like fuzzy. I want it to be sometimes a
Sure.
little more like kind of grit.
Warmer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it kind of works. And again, I don't like, and it works great in conjunction with the octave. Um, and on my tone hammer, I always have the AGS engaged, so it has that little bit of warmth. And
Yes.
I put the gain about, what is it? I'm looking at my watch. About 10 o'clock on the gain
Okay.
on the AGS. So you get a little bit of that warmth if you like dig in, or
Yeah.
if I'm picking, you can get that warmth.
Mm-hmm.
But then the distortion and the overdrive of the Joyo, I would love to probably add another overdrive. But and then my last one is, and I don't know the signal chain, but it's a Corona TC Electronic chorus pedal.
Okay. Yeah.
I I mentioned Same God earlier. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I'd been practicing and we'd done that song before, but I decided on Thursday night rehearsal, like I really want a chorus pedal for Sunday morning. So I went on Amazon
Nice.
and ordered this like $20 chorus pedal just for Same God, just for that Sunday, and I was able to put it on my pedal board, and I had that great sound at that opening bass riff, and it was all of a sudden I was like, "Ooh, I kind of like a chorus pedal. This is neat." And I was
Yeah.
using it every now and again, and then
Yeah.
it just broke. Like it was a $20
Oh
pedal.
no. Yeah.
And I researched chorus and I was looking at different ones, but then I stumbled on the Corona pedal, and I think it's
Yeah.
actually a guitar pedal, but apparently Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses is
Yes.
known for the Corona TC.
Yep.
And in my head, like that opening bass riff of Sweet Child O'
Yes.
Mine is like the ultimate
I
rock
know.
chorus distortion.
It
And
is.
so I thought,
100% it is.
so
Yeah.
that's like always been in my head. So I was like, well, that's like good enough for Duff McKagan. It's, good enough
I know,
it's good enough for
right?
Sunday morning. And
Exactly.
so I got that, and I think that it even has where you can hook it up to computer and do modeling and download. But
Yes.
I'm like, it's a little small pedal. I don't need to do all that modeling.
Yeah.
And I've avoided all of that. Back when I was doing some guitar, I bought one of those like Boss computerized things, and I just sold it because I was like, I can't do this computer. And I follow all the bass players that do the HX stomp and have the
Yeah.
presets, and I've avoided that just because I like a knob. I like to just hit a button
Yeah.
to get into all that presets and this and that, it kind of overwhelms me. Maybe I'll eventually, take that
Sure.
plunge, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm more like you too, though. I really enjoy the analog pedals
Yeah.
and being able to look down and physically tweak any at any point how I want it to be.
Yep.
But there are definitely some advantages, especially if you're wanting more of a compact board.
Yep.
You could just have like say a tone hammer and an HX stomp
Right.
and you wouldn't even have to have a tuner because it has a built-in tuner
Yep.
and that would be all you would need, you know.
Right.
So it's definitely got its advantages,
Yep.
but there is a learning curve for
For sure.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I like try to keep my pedal board small. I've got like a case that I already had and actually like built my pedal board. I got like wood and like
Nice.
I've got like table
I
saw
love
and
that.
painted it black and it's I sort of like it's like there's something cool about it because I built it and
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
nothing fancy, but and I've got the power thing, I think it's an I spot or one spot or
Yeah.
it's the multi power, but I
True
have it.
tone. Yeah.
I originally Velcroed it, but it kept falling, so I had to zip tie it to the actual pedal
Okay.
board. But it's like real compact. It's clean, and I
Nice.
just and the wireless makes it just super easy to use, and I've got freedom on stage. I'm not like I'm not just a stand there and play guy. I like to get active. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
doing crazy jump arounds and stuff, but
Sure.
I got a lot of freedom, which is nice.
Yeah, because you posted that video. I think it was from during rehearsals, and I said I had made a comment about how I was like, "Man, you're getting your steps in,"
Yeah,
because
yeah,
how much you're moving around. I love it.
for sure, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite piece of gear that you have?
Probably my birth year P bass.
That's
It's
awesome.
I just love it,
Yeah,
and it was one of those because I anticipated it for so long because it was that memorable bass. Like I still have pictures of me from high school playing that like same color bass.
yeah,
And then so I have those memories from going on more than 30 years. And then when I finally made
sure.
that decision to kind of go, it was about a 3-year process of like, I want this to actually getting it. And so I just, really just cherish it because it's kind of like an heirloom, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. Uh, so what about anything that you had? I think maybe you shared something, but maybe anything that you had that you let get away.
I mean, a little. It's interesting because my very first bass, and I won't get into the whole story, but I let
Okay.
that get away in high school. But then about 25 years later, got it back. So my very
Amazing.
first bass was this little headless Steinberger copy Aria
That's
Pro,
right.
and I knew the guy who got it from the guy I sold it to, and I over the years like sent him a message, and then one day about 4 or 5 years ago, he sent me a Facebook message out of nowhere, said, "Hey, I'm ready to let it go," and I was able to get it
Amazing.
back. So that's really cool because I bought that from the bass player in my brother's band, and it's like a special
Yeah.
treasure. It's not that great of a bass, but it's like more the sentimental collector aspect
Yes.
of it.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's what I don't know if you can see it, but back behind me, I have my Mustang bass,
Yeah,
and that was my very first bass that I learned how to, that I started doing worship with, and then playing in some garage bands with.
yeah,
So, for me, it probably needs some serious work to be able
yep,
to play it because it's just it's older. But the thing is that, like you said, the sentimental
right.
value behind it, it just
You can't
you
replace
can't
it.
no, you can't.
No, not at
uh
all.
so what is there something that you're in the in the music world we say gassing, where gear acquisition
Yeah.
syndrome for those that don't know, but is there anything right now that you've just been kind of like
I mean, I'm trying to be content. In fact, I started out this year trying to say this is the year I won't buy anything. And I think I've bought like a couple of sets of strings, and that's about it. And I wasn't even going to buy
that
strings.
doesn't
Like,
count?
no. So I try to making this a gear free year, if you will.
That's awesome. I
Um,
love that.
but like I'm always I'm on the I'm in that MXR bass synth pedal is like I wanted to sell my micro synth and get that the first day I
I
saw that
know.
thing. I mean, Ian Allison, who kind of promoted
I
that,
know.
you just
Dude,
anything he promotes, I just want to get, you know?
I know.
Um,
I'm like, and businesses should take note of that
yes.
because he can make anything out there cool.
Yeah,
And with the like, it doesn't matter what it is.
I know.
He can make it sound cool, and I'm just like, I need that.
Right, for sure. So man, that's one. I mean, I've always wanted a 50s style, early 50s style P bass.
Oh
One time
yeah,
I played one and there was like this was like 10, 12 years ago at Guitars, and it was like a 53. It was like then they were selling it for 18 grand. But the guy let me
wow,
play it and it was just so beautiful and smooth like butter. And
yeah,
so I've just wanted to get a fake one. Like, and it could be like,
yeah,
and I've sort of have the idea of DIYing like a relic job. And part of it's like the Sting has a signature
yeah.
bass, but it's kind of all glossy. But I would love to have that distressed, like beat up
Well,
50s P bass.
they make I think they have two different versions, I think, of Stings, and one of them is an MIJ,
Hmm.
so made in
Yeah.
Japan. So I've seen those still like pretty decent, like
Yeah.
$1,000 or less
Right.
for that. You could always take one of those and then sand the back of the neck,
I've
you
thought
know?
about that. Yeah, I've even thought about getting one of those real cheap ones that are you can only get them like from like Thomann, the German website.
Oh
What's
yeah.
the Harley Benton? Because you Harley
Oh
Benton, you can get
yeah.
like they're about $110, but the shipping is like $300. And I had a friend who ended up going in with a few people and they bought like 3 or 4 things because you can pay
Oh,
the
and
shipping
saved.
once and then it all ships over.
Interesting.
I've thought about getting one of those and like doing the like relic job on it, but again, it all become my, you know, I'm always on the look for like a $50 Squire, like on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
I
Well,
own, yeah,
I'm trying to remember uh the girl from Krungbin, you
yes,
know, that we talked about. She had before she as of recently, she got a signature
yep,
bass, and I wish I could, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, it's an SX
mm-hmm,
bass is the name of it.
yeah,
Uh and those you can find them for like 300 to 400 bucks.
right, right,
And I was just like, at the time, I remember my mind being blown because I was like, how is it that she has this bass that is a $300 guitar and
yeah.
making it sound so good?
I know.
So,
I think we get like you feel like you earn a badge by spending a certain amount of money, but
right.
then if you don't have the right words on the headstock, you know, you're not
Yes, I
worthy or
know.
something. I mean, you know.
Yep.
But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that like I mean, a tube DI would be something. I mean, obviously
Oh,
a
yeah.
Noble would be amazing, but I would have to play one, and I feel like I've not. The sales pitch to me is not that strong because the costs that they are. I'd rather get another bass than get a Noble tube.
Sure.
But I
Oh,
know there's
yeah.
like some other ones like the Con, I think it is, and then there's the Neve I've looked into, and then there's even like the
Yeah.
fake Noble that like you can either buy the kit and put it together or buy
Yeah.
one that someone has already
Yourself. Yep.
done for like several $100. So those are like, yeah, like a
Yeah.
tube DI would be cool. And then I mentioned a 5 string, like a passive PJ that's like a P bass style. There's just
Yeah.
nobody really makes them. Like
Exactly.
Lakeland has them, but they're like 4 grand. You know, like I just
Yeah.
something like
It
that
would
would be cool.
almost be better to just do like what you said and get like a Fender 5 string P bass
Yes,
and then just take it somewhere to have them route out a jazz,
exactly,
you know. So
exactly.
just like how Brandon did, like you were
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
I almost want to get that one back that I had to do that, but
Well, he was doing it because, and he talked about it, he let a bass get away from him.
hmm,
And still to this day, when I talk to him, he always refers to that bass as a
yeah,
5 string. I'm pretty sure it was a Sadowski,
yeah,
uh, 5 string, and he was like, I should have never gotten rid of it.
yeah.
So,
But like
but
that,
he,
like the 5-string Sadowski that I mentioned, it's the Metro Express. I think they're made in Indonesia, I believe. I tell this because people in the worship bass chat talk, they ask questions about gear, and I always
yeah,
say if you got about $1,200 to spend, I really think that Metro Express is like the best
yeah,
value out there for what you get. If you want active, you've got it, and they make it in a J, like J, 2J pickups. They
yeah,
PJ, you can get a 4-string, you can get a 5-string. They look really cool. I mean, I love
yeah,
the white with the the rose pickguard or whatever. I can't remember the name, but then
yeah,
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 tortoise.
tortoise pickguard. I
Yeah,
mean, they're just cool bases,
yeah. I
and they're
like
so
the
affordable.
maple neck too
Yeah,
is really cool.
yeah,
I like that. That's awesome. Well, now we come to the kind of bringing it in for a landing
yeah, yeah,
here, but we got to end with my favorite part anyway is the rapid fire.
yeah.
And so let's start it off first. Flats or rounds?
If I had to pick one, I'd say rounds, but I almost want to say both because I have two bases currently with the Labella Super Polished, which is kind of
Oh,
a
okay.
hybrid. So the original Super Polished, or they take round wound and they kind of like grind them down. So the original one,
Okay.
they feel a little bit like rounds, but they lean towards flats. And then there's the
Huh.
Ian Martin Allison signature
I've
ones that
heard
I
about them.
recently put those on my 5-string. They
Nice.
sort of feel like flats, but they lean more towards rounds. And the more I've
Interesting.
played this bass with those, they've broken in and I love them. Like they're like my favorite
Awesome.
strings. So if I had to pick one, it'd be rounds, but super polished or almost like having both. It's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so what about P bass or jazz bass?
As much as I love my P bass, if I had to have one bass and one bass only, it'd be a jazz bass.
Nice. I like that. Uh, all right. What about a desert island pedal?
Tone hammer.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be mine too, for sure. Uh, favorite bass player, worship or not?
It's hard to pick one. Of course, I got to say Adam Clayton is my favorite band of all time. Flea. I wore out learning Flea back in high school and just have always loved his approach from the funk style to just his melodic playing as well. And just how like it's like bass as a lead instrument. And
Yeah.
what other band do you know where the bass player is more known than anybody else? I just think it's really
Oh,
cool.
yeah, for
Um,
sure. That is for
yeah.
sure.
And Jaco Pastorius, I've mentioned Sting is one of my favorites. And then I think of
Yeah.
late, and we talked about him, but Ian Martin Allison, he's just class
Oh,
act.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And he's so inspiring,
Yeah, and he's so
you know.
real. Like I actually got to meet him a couple years ago. So he was touring with a singer-songwriter. It was about 2 hours away from Richmond, and
Okay.
got to meet him and like actually held it. Like he's like, "Hey, check out my signature bass," and I got to like sort of play it a
Nice.
little bit. He's like humble. He's cool. Like
Yeah.
he would be great for this podcast. I know he's not like
Yeah.
specifically worship, but man, if you could get Ian, like,
Well,
wow,
yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I'm definitely wanting to eventually have him on because he does
Yeah,
have experience serving in
he
church, but
does
so I could still kind of incorporate some of that in there and then just, just talk about a bunch of other stuff,
for sure.
especially gear
Oh
stuff,
man,
which would be fun
that would be so
with
cool.
him. Yeah.
Love to be a fly on
Uh
the wall in that room.
well, actually what's cool is I could actually you can do guests
Oh, cool.
and they're like there and they can watch it but they don't you
Ah,
don't comment or anything like that,
that's
so
cool. That
maybe
could
I'll
be
have to
really
keep you
cool.
in mind for that,
Yeah.
so
Or it could be like an
uh
alternate episode where you have like,
yeah, that's true.
people come in and get more participation.
Yeah. uh so favorite coffee of choice?
So I love dark roast, preferably French roast. I started out, we're recording this at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, which I'm not usually an evening coffee drinker, but this was Trader Joe's dark, like Joe's dark, they
Nice.
call it. And I'm a black coffee guy. And
Yeah,
so I always drink my coffee black and love my dark roast.
that's awesome. What about favorite coffee shop? You have a favorite one in the area?
Yeah, there's a roaster in Richmond called
Oh, cool.
Blanchard's that a lot of like coffee shops have held, or and stores will sell their coffee. They actually have this one called Dark as Dark, dark, and
Nice.
but they now have coffee shops in the last few years. But I just love, and there's even a local ice cream shop that had this like ice cream with the dark as dark like grounds like
Oh,
blended into it. It's like so good.
interesting.
But yeah, I love Blanchard's, and then there's an Italian espresso place in town. It's called
Oh,
Cafe Espresso. It's owned by an Italian guy, so it's like very
oh
authentic.
man.
Again, I'm very much a like drip coffee guy, but when I go there,
Sure.
I've got to get like a latte or a cappuccino type thing. Um,
Yeah.
it's just so good, and it feels so authentic. I've never been to Italy, but I can imagine that's what coffee would taste
Yeah.
like in Italy.
Heck yeah, that's
Yep.
awesome. All right, and then the last question is the music that you're currently listening to when you're not having to, listen to your Sunday morning set. What's some music that you're listening to?
Yeah, a lot of times I default to like my historic music, stuff like U2, The Police,
Sure.
anything that's like 80s, 90s playlists I just love because I think
Yeah.
there's actually a music therapy term. It's called generational vantage point, and where they've seen music therapists when people are in their 90s and they're essentially catatonic, they can play music from when like someone was like, I think it's 17 to
Oh,
24, so ages 17 to 24, and like people who otherwise were unresponsive like light up because they're hearing this music. So I've always
wow.
I read about that years ago in a music class, and I've always defaulted back to what I've always when I loved back in the
Yeah,
day and the stuff I learned as a bass player. But new music, I feel like I used to go buy CDs, like once a week
I
and
know.
now I feel like there's so much music that's at our fingertips. And we're sort of in this binge world where we binge watch TV series. Like I will binge
Sure.
music. Like you guys actually on one of the
Yeah.
early podcasts, you talked about Krungben. I'd never heard of them.
Yeah.
Once I figured out how to spell it, which I think I
Exactly.
sent you a
Yeah.
message, I ended up listening like in 3 days, listened to all the Krungben albums. And
Yeah.
that was like 2 months ago. And I haven't touched it since then. Um,
That's awesome.
my latest binge, and this is kind of an Ian Martin Allison influence, is Ben Rector. Because
Oh,
Ian's been playing
yeah.
bass with him, and then I heard Ben Rector on another podcast, John Christ, the comedian. If that's a fun podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
But Ben Rector, I've in the last week and a half, I've binged almost all of his albums, and it's like he's a guy I heard maybe a song here or there. So like
Yeah.
I'm one of these, like, I find out about a new artist and then I'll just listen to all of it. But then I feel like music is meant to be more experienced, and
Yeah.
I'm still like an album guy. Like I don't like to just listen to one song here, one song there. I still feel like the albums that are, they take you back. Like U2, the Joshua
Yeah.
Tree is just like that,
I
like
know.
it's just like, that, and Rattle and Hum was actually, I actually knew that album before Joshua Tree, but it's like the feelings you get from listening to an album. So
I know.
yeah, but it's so hard to do that with something you've only experienced for
True.
2 weeks or even two
Yep.
years. It's not part of your life
Yeah.
experience.
Yep. Yeah, it's almost like you gotta take a trip somewhere or something and
Yeah,
listen to it so it becomes part of
right.
your memories for that trip,
For sure.
I feel like that happened a lot, like, even my wife and I now, there are certain songs that when
Yeah.
they come on the radio or, whatever we're playing, that it reminds us of our when we had our honeymoon in the Keys,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
certain songs like, so "The World I Know" by Collective Soul, was
Yeah.
one of the songs. Those are songs that forever are tied to those, moments in our lives. So,
I love that.
yeah, that's definitely a thing. You talking about Ben Rector, though, I wanted to mention something. If you look on YouTube and you search Ben Rector and like studio,
Hmm.
there's I think it's actually maybe this particular studio cut is on Spotify, but it's a live shot of when they recorded it, and it's literally in the studio, and it's just all the musicians in a big circle,
Yeah.
and it's a guy with a camera, and he's just kind of floating around the entire room, and they're playing these songs and they are phenomenal.
That
I
is
mean,
cool.
phenomenal. He's coming around, then he's like showing the bass player playing
Yeah.
and then the keys player. So if you get a chance to look that up, or I'll even try it after we end. I'll look it up real quick and I'll just text it to you so
Yeah.
you can check it out later. But I remember a friend of mine showed it to me and I was just like, I must have watched it like 10 times in a row. It was just so cool. So that's awesome. So wrapping things up here,
Yeah.
what's some advice that you would give to anybody who's maybe new to the worship bass world? They're trying to get started, or just what kind of any kind of advice that you wish that you knew trying to get involved?
I mean, I think first and foremost for worship music in the church, check your heart. What's your motivation
Yeah,
here? Are you here to serve God? Are you here to serve the church? Or are you here to kind of inflate your ego? And I say that
sure.
and I'm kind of talking to myself. It's easy to, you know,
It is.
and even in my church as we've grown and, like we didn't used to have the streaming. We didn't used to have camera guys up in your face with getting up on the big screen. And it's very easy to get distracted by that. And
Yeah.
and that's sort of like the mega church sort of
Yep.
world. But I know a lot of people probably listening to this are in smaller churches where don't feel
Sure.
because you're in a smaller church or you're not like live streamed and you're not on
Right.
cameras that you're not doing significant work because it's all kingdom work
Yes.
and it's all the body of Christ. And I think sometimes we get
Yes.
siloed in our churches. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
love about this podcast is we can all come together as the body of Christ, regardless of denomination, regardless of church, and
Yeah.
bring our offerings together and have fellowship around the idea of using our instruments as a tool to
Yeah.
worship the King of Kings. And
Yeah.
very practical advice for bassists because as we've had new bass players come in, I'll like look at their bass and they've got dead strings and it's poorly set up. You can't getting a professional setup on your instrument, there's no substitute for that. And it will take
Yes.
what feels like junk, what sounds terrible, make it feel so much better and sound so much better.
Yes.
So it's
And your playing will get better. I
yes.
mean, it's incredible having a good setup and you're all of a sudden like, wow, I can play this instrument so much better.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. So just don't, you know, don't it's like changing your oil in your car.
Yeah.
I actually had a friend say that to me this year because I was saying I don't want to spend any money on gear this year, and I'm like, but my strings are really bad. He's like, come on, it's like changing your oil. I was like, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, maybe I should do that. So,
Yeah.
shout out to Greg for that one. So if he ends up listening to this,
Right. That's awesome. Cool. Well, I guess that's about all we have time for today.
yeah,
So I just wanted to say thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed getting to hang out with you.
yeah,
Now I feel like I know you even better, which is cool because that's what I've hoped that these have been like. It's just felt like maybe a coffee shop hang
yeah.
would be like. And so anyway, with that, let's say you're on, I know for sure you're on Instagram. Is there anything else that
I'm
you're
I'm kind of on all of them: Instagram, Facebook,
okay?
TikTok, YouTube, and it's all public.
Okay.
And you can just search my name, Phil Lawson, or like my Instagram handle is Phil_RVA. RVA is Richmond, Virginia. It's where I do
Okay.
real estate. I post a lot of, real estate content, but I've been doing like music content.
Yeah.
I'll tell the story on my bass. I did a worship vlog a few weeks ago. Then
I loved that one.
yeah.
Loved it.
So I try to like incorporate all of my different musical
Yeah.
backgrounds into that content. And so far, I haven't run out of ideas. So I'm going to keep them coming. And then
Yeah.
if you like to see house tours and stuff like that too, I do a lot of
Yeah.
video with
Heck
that.
yeah.
So
I love it. Well, and I'll at least on the hold on just a second, I'm sorry. Uh at least on the YouTube version, I will underneath all the like information about the particular episode, I'll put your links
yeah,
there, like Instagram and all of that.
sure.
So if people are having a hard time finding you for whatever
Yeah.
reason, or they can just go to my Instagram page and they'll probably be able to find you through
Yeah,
that too.
absolutely.
So through my followers. So
Yeah, and I
anyway,
want to shout out to Heights Church in Richmond, Virginia.
yeah.
I don't think I ever mentioned the church by name, so we love Heights
Okay.
Church, and it's a church plant about 10 years ago, and we've got to join in pretty early and seen the church grow and explode, and
That's
just
awesome.
a great vision. And my whole family is so blessed to be a part of Heights Church in Richmond, Virginia. So big shout out to Heights.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, cool, man. Thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for
And
having. Very much an honor. You know, you've had some big names and people who have been all over the country, and just to be included is kind of
oh,
a
heck yeah.
small town guy is great. So I really
Well,
appreciate it.
I'm a small town guy too, so that we're in the same boat. So
Absolutely.
I'm just a little bit kind of starstruck by some of the people that I get to talk to,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is cool,
Yeah, for sure.
So, but hopefully, sometime if you end up ever in Nashville again, we'll have to hook up and
Absolutely.
hang out, get to meet. So that would be awesome.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
or if I'm out that way for some reason.
For sure.
So cool. All right, man.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much again, and I will talk to you
All
later.
right. Thank you, Jay. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.
Welcome back to the Worship Based Coffee Studios. That was such a fun episode, really. A lot of fun and cool just to hear some different opinions and takes on some things from Phil. I really enjoyed his heart in hearing about how much he enjoys serving. And so that was really cool. Has just a great guy, great family, and super cool to have him on. I wanted to share, we have been doing the Advent. Obviously, the Advent has come to a close, but for the last episode for the month, I figured I would do something that's kind of related to that. And it kind of is some things that took place after the birth of Jesus. And so I just thought I would share. We're in Matthew 2, and it says, after they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presents, presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. So I just wanted to share another, just thinking about this month and the birth of Christ. I know there are a lot of people out there that debate when, Jesus's birth was, but just this month and what it means as far as Christmas and family and love and the love of Christ. Whether it is as historically accurate as far as that comes or not. I just think it's good to reflect on his life and his birth, and especially during this time and everything of how God just had laid his path out and protected him. It's just really, really good to remind ourselves of all of that. So, with all that said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening for this year. My next guest, I'm really excited about. I'm going to keep it a little bit on the secret side. Anyway, he is going to be a great kickoff for the new year. We're going to kick off on a low end, not a high end. I'll explain that more later, the little joke there. But anyway, super excited to have him on and to kind of kick off the new year, kick off another year with you guys and bringing you some good guests. I've got a bunch more people lined up. And so this is it's been going great. It's been extremely easy. To get guests on here. Probably I've got more guests than I've got time to do, just because the bass community is just such a cool community. The guys are just super into doing this kind of stuff. And what I love about the bass community is the lack of feeling like you've got to, like when you were a kid in school and you'd put your arm around your paper as you're doing a test because you didn't want anybody to look onto your paper and cheat. Well, bass players are not like that when it comes to their gear. We're just an open book. Hey, you want to check out and see what bass gear I am playing through? Cool. Hey, do you want to know anything about it? Ask me. I'd love to share. And so no gatekeeping from bassists, which is awesome. That's why I love the community and the guys that are in it. So anyway, with all of that said, hopefully I've got some great things coming the beginning of the year, starting things off. Really excited to do some more, to take this community to another level. Again, anytime that you can share any of this, that you can go on and make a comment, say on Spotify, and leave a review, or just give the star review. Please 5 stars, please 5 stars. Any time you can do some of that, it helps a lot. Helps for the show just to grow, to get more visibility. The algorithm, it helps the algorithm. The wonderful word, the algorithm. So anytime you can do that, it would be very, very helpful and great if you could do that. And I would be very grateful. So anyway, with all that said, I hope you guys, if I don't, talk to any of you on your radio again or whatever you listen to have a happy new year. Spend that time with your family and loved ones. And in that same vein, as we always say at the end of every episode, tell someone you love them, and we'll see you next time and next year.